entire data we are getting. We are getting the entire data into document object. We are getting the data, and from the document object we are reading the data from the document object. That is a main disadvantage in DOM parser. That's why DOM parser is never preferred for reading the data from the XML file. If you want to read the data from the XML file, Android is preferred to use either SaxParser or XML pull parser. Android is preferred to use what? Either SaxParser or XML pull parser. Okay, so this SaxParser or XML pull parser are the sequential executions. SaxParser or XML pull parser are what? Let's say a sequential execution, meaning line by line we can execute the data. Line by line we can execute the data by using SaxParser and XML pull parser. Okay, so first thing is what? SaxParser is what? It's a sequential execution, meaning it will not get the entire data. It will not get the entire data. It is going to read the data line by line. It's going to read the data. So whatever the record you want to get in your program, you can get only that particular record you can get into your program. You don't have to get the entire data into your program. So you don't have to waste the memory basically. It's a sequential execution. Line by line it's going to execute. So whatever the record you want to access in your particular Java code, you can get that particular record only you can get. Okay. So SaxParser is providing a supporting class. SaxParser is providing a supporting class called SaxParser is providing a supporting class called default handler. SaxParser is providing a supporting class called default handler for reading the data from the XML file. For reading the data from XML file. So line by line it's going to execute the data based on the particular tag type. Line by line it's going to execute the data based on the tag type. It is going to call the particular methods in the Java file. Basically it contains 5 major methods. This SaxParser is providing a supporting class called what? Default handler is a class. This default handler is providing 5 methods for reading the data from XML file. It is providing 5 methods to read the data from the XML file. One is start document is one method. Next, another thing is start element is another method. Start document, start element, characters. Start document, start element, characters, end element and end document. End element, and what is the last one? End document. These are the 5 major methods in the default handler class. These are what? The 5 major methods in the default handler class. Start document, start element, characters, end element and end document. Meaning it's line by line it's going to execute the data. Based on the tag type, it is going to call the particular methods in the Java. So let's see. For example, this is XML file we created. Now last class, this is XML file we created. Employees is a root tag. Employees is a root tag we created, and which contains a tag called employee is a tag. Okay. Next, ID. ID, name, close employee. Okay, like this we created two XML records we inserted in the XML. employee. So finally close what? Finally close employees. Okay. So now SaxParser is what? It's a sequential execution, meaning line by line it's going to read the data. A sequential execution based on the tag type, it is going to call the particular methods in the default handler class. SaxParser is providing a supporting class called default handler. This default handler contains 5 major methods. What are the 5 methods? One is start document is one method. This default handler providing 5 major methods. One is start document is one method, and another method is start element is another method. Start element is another method. Start document, start element, characters, end element, and end document. These are the 5 major methods. Give me one second. SaxParser is providing these methods. SaxParser is providing a supporting class called what? SaxParser is providing a supporting class called default handler. Inside the default handler class, these are the 5 major methods in the default handler class. So based on the tag type, it is going to call the particular method. I told you that it's a sequential execution. Line by line, it's going to execute the data. Meaning, what is initial position? Initial position is this one, right? Meaning, it's going to call which method? It's going to call the start element, start document method is going to call. Initial position is this. It's going to call which method? Start document method is going to call. Here it's going to call start document. Here it's going to call what? Start document. Next, what is the next one? Next position comes to here. Because it's a sequential execution, automatically it will move to the next statements. Once this is completed, start document, it will move to the next position, it will come. So at this place, it's a start element, beginning of a tag. Beginning of a tag means it's going to call which method? Start element method. And here, okay, start element is going to call. Next, here it's going to call which method? Here also it's going to call element only. Start element method is only called. Here also it's going to call which method? Start element method. Next, ID tag. Here in ID tag also it's going to call which method? It's going to call start element method is going to call. First it's going to call start element method. First it's going to call which method? Start element method. Next, tag contains some data, right? This tag contains some data. 1, 2, 3 contains some data. While it is reading the data from a tag, it's going to read the characters method. While it is reading the data from a tag, it is going to call which method? Characters method. Okay. At the closing tag, it's going to call end element method. The tag contains data, it's going to call characters method. If it is a closing tag, it's going to call whenever the tag is closing, it's going to call which method? It's going to call the end element method. Okay. Again, the same process for next to tag also. Start element, characters, end element. Start element, characters, end element, like this. Beginning of a tag, it's going to call start element method. The tag contains data, it's going to call characters method. When it is closing a tag, it's going to call end element method. So based on that, we have to write the logic. When it is closing a tag, it's going to call end document method. Whenever it is closing a tag, it's going to call what? It's going to call the end element method is going to call here. Here also, it's going to call closing of a tag. First, it's going to call what? It's going to call this end element, it's going to call here. Here, first it's going to call end element is going to call. And next, what is the next one? After closing of a document, here at this place, the closing of a document, it's going to call end element method is going to end document method is going to call. It's going to call which method? End document method will call. Okay, so this is the SaxParser, reading the data using SaxParser, sequential execution, line by line execute to execute the data based on the tag type. It is going to call the particular methods in the Java file. Okay, so now we'll see how to read the data from the XML file by using a SaxParser. How to read the data from XML using what? SaxParser. Let's create a new project. So my project name is SaxParser test is a project. SaxParser test is a project name. Next. Here in activity XML file, just we'll create a button we'll create for reading the data from XML. Here just we'll create a button called read Sax. I want to read the data from the XML file using what? SaxParser. Read what? Sax. Okay. Let's configure the click event for this button. Read Sax. Let's configure the click event. On click is equals to read Sax. So simple API for XML. Okay. So now we'll create this method. We'll create in the Java file a read Sax method. Okay. The first step to read the data from XML file is using SaxParser. We had to create an object for SaxParser factory class. We had to create an object for SaxParser factory class. We had to create an object SaxParser factory. SaxParser factory is equals to SaxParser factory dot new instance is a method. SaxParser factory dot new instance is a method to get the object for SaxParser factory. Okay. So next we had to create the object for SaxParser class. We had to create an object. Let's create the object for SaxParser class. Parser is equals to SaxParser factory dot. There is a method called new instance. New SaxParser is a method. New SaxParser is a method to get the object for SaxParser. Basically, we require the object for SaxParser. But if you want to get this object, we have to create the object for SaxParser factory. So this logic will give an exception. Put the logic inside what? Try catch. This logic will give some exception. Put the logic inside what? The try catch. Okay, SaxParser factory dot new instance. Okay, so we got the SaxParser object we got. Now if you want to read the data from the XML file, here SaxParser is providing a supporting class called default handler for reading the data from the XML. So first what we will do is, let's create a file object first. From which file you want to read the data, let's specify the file object. File f is equals to new file of, specify the path here where the XML file is available. Where we created XML file? In the device internal storage SD card 0. In the device internal storage, we created a file with the name emp.xml is a file name. What is the file name? emp.xml is a file name. Now I want to read the data from this XML file. So if you want to read the data from the XML file, see, there is a method called, in the SaxParser object, there is a method called parser.parse is a method. Parser dot, what is the method name? Parse is a method. So basically we had to specify, if you see the fourth one here, which is taking two parameters as input. One is the file object, second parameter is a default handler. File object, second thing is what? Default handler. So let's create the object for default handler class. Okay, first parameter is a file object. We specified from which file you want to read the data. File f is equals to new file of path. I want to read the data from this file. I want to read the data, comma. Second parameter is what? Second parameter is the object of default handler class. Second parameter is what? It's an object of default handler class. So basically how you'll create the object? By using new operator, right? So now we had to create the object of default handler class. We had to create the object. See, one is available in SaxParser helpers, another thing is in sax.ext. Take the default handler, not default handler 2. Okay. Create the object of new default handler class. Now inside this default handler, it's a supporting class for reading the data from XML file. Automatically, it contains the data to move to the next statements. Okay. So now this default handler contains five major methods, but maximum programmatically we'll get a requirement of only using 3 methods. Now if you want to override the 3 methods, just after this default handler, I'm opening this floor bracket, opening the floor bracket and closing the floor bracket, meaning now we are inside the default handler class. If you put the cursor here, now we are inside which class? We are inside the default handler class. I'll repeat once again. Just we create the object for default handler class. Now this default handler contains the 3 methods. We want to override the 3 methods. So just opening and closing the floor bracket and put the cursor inside these floor brackets, meaning now we are inside which class? We are inside the default handler class. This default handler class contains 5 major methods, but we'll get a requirement of reading only 3 methods. Okay, you'll never get a requirement of using the start document and end document method. Okay, let's override the 3 methods. One is start element is one method. What is the first one? Start element. When it is reading the data from a tag, it's going to call start element method. Next, what is the next one? The second thing is characters. Characters is another method. Start element, characters, and the last one is nothing but end element. These are the 3 major methods: start element, characters, and end element method. When it is beginning a tag, it's going to call start element. When it is closing a tag, it's going to call, when the tag contains data, it's going to call the characters method. When it is closing the tag, it's going to call end element method. Okay. Now here, for reading the data from the XML file, in this parse method, here I'm taking one string variable. Let's take string msg is equals to initially empty. String msg is equals to what? Initially empty. So start element, we don't require the start element. In the characters method, because if tag contains data, if tag contains any data, which method is going to be called? Characters method is going to call, right? In this characters method, append the data to MSG. Just whatever the data is there in the particular tag, I'm appending the data, I'm appending to one string variable. I taken initially empty, I'm appending the data, I'm appending whatever the tag contains the data, that data I'm appending to one string variable, that is MSG. But see here, directly we are not getting the string object, we are not getting directly. The input we are getting as a character array. Characters, what is the input parameter? For this characters method, the input parameter is nothing but what? Character array is the input parameter. Basically, we are getting the character array as input, but we require the string we required. Required what? String we required, but we are getting the character array as input. So what we had to do is we had to convert that character array. We had to convert into string format. We had to convert. We had to convert that character array. We had to convert into what? Into a string. We had to convert. New string of character array, comma, from its starting position, comma, length. Simple. Like we are getting the character array as input, but we require the data in a string format we required. We required the data in a string format we required. That's why we are converting that character array, we are converting into string format we are converting. So from which character to which character you want to convert, you have to specify here. I'm specifying from starting character to ending character. How many characters are there in the array? All the characters I want to convert into string format. That's what we specified here. And just to print in the next line, the next record to print in the next line, appending slash and I'm appending, so that it will print the record in data in the next line. Okay. Now we stored the entire data, we stored into one string variable, we stored the entire data, that is nothing but MSG. We stored the entire data, we stored into one string variable, we stored, that is MSG variable, we stored the entire data. Now in the end element method, okay, in this end element method, okay boss, you stored the data, you stored in the MSG, you stored the data. When you want to display this one, whenever the tag is closing, with employee, whenever the tag is closing with what? Employee, meaning one employee record is completed. If it is closing the tag here, means one employee record is completed. Here when it is closing the tag here, here means it is going to call, meaning the second employee record is completed. So we have to identify here. Okay, we are storing that entire data, this 1, 2, 3 Mahesh team, this entire data we are storing onto a string variable, that is MSG. When you want to show this one to the user, whenever it is closing the tag with employee, meaning one employee record is completed, so we'll display the data, will display in a toast message. So here in your code, in the end element method, but how you identify in the end element method, because multiple places it's going to call the end element method. To identify here, one of the input parameter for this end element method is nothing but qname. If you see here, one of the input parameter for this end element method is nothing but what? Qname. This qname means nothing but tag name. Qname means nothing but what? It's a tag name. So here we have to check if qname, the tag name. If this tag name is equals ignore case, meaning if it is closing the tag with employee, whenever it is closing the tag with employee, meaning one employee record is what? It's completed. One employee record is what? It's completed. So we'll display that employee data, will display in a toast message, will display that employee data. Toast to dot make text get application context, comma, we stored the data in MSG, display the MSG, length underscore long dot show is the method. That's it. Okay. So whenever it is reading the data from a closing tag, and if the tag name is employee, then we are displaying the data, we are displaying in a toast message, we are displaying. Okay, so just give me a minute, I'll connect and I'll install the application. Okay. external app, Samsung ZT, click on OK. It is installing the app. We'll wait for 2 minutes. So it will take some time. So 1 second. Okay. So once if you click on this read Sax button, this is my phone preview. This is my phone preview. Okay, I got the output in my phone. So once if you click on this read Sax button, see here, we got the first record we got, and we got the second record we got. These are the 2 records are available. For first record, okay, fine. 1 to 5, we got the data we got. See, the second record, it's going to append to the previous record. Second record, it's going to append to the previous record. Why it is appending the second record to the previous record? Because see, we are storing the data into MSG, and we displayed the data. Second record also, it's going to append to the MSG, right? So what we had to do is, after completion of one element, after completion of one record, we had to make it MSG is equals to empty. We had to make it. If you make it empty, then you will not get the problem. You will not get that problem. So meaning the next record is going to append. Next record will append to this record, but we are making what? Before going to read the next record, we are making this MSG. We are making what? Empty. We are making, so that we will not get the problem. You will not get. The second record will not append to the previous record. Okay, just make MSG is equals to empty after reading one record. That's it. So now you will not get the problem. You will not get. Okay, this is reading the data from the SaxParser. Have you understand? Because so now I'm testing the application. App is installed. Read Sax. I got 1 to 5 record. Next 1 to 6 record. 1 to 5. Next we got what? 1 to 6 record separately. Because before we read the next record, we are making the first record. The string variable empty we are making. Okay. So now we are reading all the records we are reading. Now the challenge is how to read a particular record. How to read a particular record. Meaning here I'll specify, we'll create a text box, we'll create here. I'll create a text box. A plain text box will take, meaning user is going to give the number in the text box, which record he wants to read. He is going to specify that particular number he is going to specify in this text box. He wants to read the 123 record or 124 record. Which record he wants to read, he is going to specify that number he is going to specify here. Okay, so whatever the user is given, for example, if user is given 123, we have to read only 123 record only we have to read. If user is specified 124, we have to read only 124 record only we have to read. Okay, that is a requirement. Okay, but before going to write that logic, first, are you clear with this? Are you clear with the SaxParser? Have you understand? Because if you understand the SaxParser, then only you can understand the XML pull parser. It's a copy paste work for me. I know to write the entire logic once again in the XML pull parser. Okay. So okay, what we'll do is first we'll write the XML pull parser logic also we'll write, and then after that we'll see how to read the data from a specific record. Okay. So now even we'll write the logic for what? The XML pull parser logic also we'll write. Okay. Then after that we'll see how to read a specific record. Okay. For reading the data from the XML pull parser, I'll create one more button here. I'll create one more button in the activity called XML pull parser. I'll create one more button here, that is XML pull parser. Okay, I create a button called XML pull. Let's configure the click event also for this XML pull button. Let's configure the click event for this XML pull parser and specifying the method name as pull parser. XML pull parser. So pull parser is a method. Now we'll create this method in the Java file. We'll create that method. We'll create a separate method in Java. We'll create a separate method in Java. Public void pull parser is a method. View object is the input parameter for this pull parser. Okay. So same like SaxParser, difference between XML pull parser and SaxParser is nothing but both are sequential execution only. Both are what? Both are sequential execution. Line by line it's going to execute the data. One difference in XML pull parser is nothing but it is not having any supporting class like default handler. Now the XML pull parser is also what? XML pull parser is also XML pull parser is also what? It's a sequential execution. Line by line it's going to read the data. Difference is nothing but it is not having any supporting class like default handler. Basically what default handler is doing? Default handler is doing to move to the next statements, meaning first to start document, next move to the next position, move to the next position, move to the next position until the end of the document. Meaning who is giving this logic to move to the next statements? I told you that it's sequential execution. It will move to the next statements. Who will move to the next statements? Default handler. Default handler is providing that functionality to move this XML, read the XML tags until the end of the document. That is the first one. Default handler is providing the functionality. Next, based on the tag type, based on the particular tag type, we are calling the particular method in the Java file. So basically, SaxParser is providing this, default handler is providing that functionality. But in XML pull parser, we had to make it manually. We had to make that logic. We had to make manually, meaning move to the next statements until the end of the document. That logic we had to make manually. That's only the difference. So even the XML pull parser is also having the same kind of, but here it's not a method, it's an integer constant. If it is start document, we are having a constant called start document. Start document is a constant. If it is start element, we are having an integer constant called start tag. If it is characters, here it's going to call a method called text. If it is end tag, it's going to call end. If it is end element, here it's going to call end tag method, it's going to end tag constant is going to call, and here it is end document. It is what? End document. Even the XML pull parser is also same sequential execution, but one difference is nothing but it's not having a supporting class called default handler. Manually we had to write the logic to move to the next statements. That's the difference. Okay, just give me a minute, I'll connect the chat here. Okay, so now let's see how to read the data from the XML file using what? XML pull parser. Okay, so now here, even though if you not understand DOM parser, or even if you still not understand the XML SaxParser, leave it. At least try to understand the XML pull parser, because 90% of the development maximum will get a requirement of reading the data from the XML file. If you want to read the data from the XML file, Android is preferred to use this XML pull parser for reading the data from XML file. Okay. Okay, let's see how to read the data from XML. So if you want to read the data from XML using XML pull parser, first we had to create the object for XML pull parser factory. If you want to read the data from XML file, first we had to create an object for what? XML pull parser factory class. We had to create an object as equals to XML pull parser factory dot new instance is a method. XML pull parser factory dot new instance is a method to get the object for XML pull parser factory. Okay, and next we had to get the object for XML pull parser class. We had to get the object XML pull parser is equals to XML pull parser factory dot new pull parser is a method to get the object for XML pull parser. XML pull parser is equals to what? The XML pull parser factory dot new pull parser is a method to get the object of what? To get the object for XML pull parser. Okay, so this logic also will give an exception. Put the logic inside the try catch. Okay, this XML pull parser contains a method called the XML pull parser object dot. There is a method called set input is a method. What is the method name? Set input is a method which is taking two parameters as input. One is the input stream object, a second one is file reader object. Reader object. I'm taking the second one, set input. File reader. From which file you want to read the data? Let's specify the file reader object. We are having a class to read the data from a file called file reader is another class. File reader is equals to new file reader of, specify the file path. Which file you want to read the data? Let's specify the path here. Where the file is available in the device storage, SD card 0, internal storage. What is a file name? emp.xml is a file name. Okay. Parser.set input is a method. Now here specify the file reader object. From which file you want to read the data? Let's specify the file object. That's it. Parser.set input of file reader object. From which file you want to read the data? We specified in the file reader. Now specify that file as the input parameter to the parser. Okay. Now the difference between SaxParser and XML pull parser is nothing but what? In Sax we are having a supporting class called default handler. See what we specified. File object we specified in the parse method, and second parameter we specified the default handler object. So default handler object will take care of reading to the next statements to read the data. Okay, but here we don't have a supporting class like default handler, so manually we have to write the logic to move to the next statements. Okay, so for this int I is equals to there is a method called parser dot get event type is a method. What is the method name? Get event type is a method. Meaning, if you call this parser dot get event type, if you call, you will get the initial position you will get. See, after specifying a file, this is the initial position. Initial position means what is this one? Initial position you will get this one. This one is what? It's a start document. It's what? It's a stock document. So based on this, it's going to call the constant, it's going to call here called start document. Next, we have to move to the next statement. In case of default handler, automatically move to the next statements, but here manually we have to write the logic to move to the next statement. Manually we have to write the logic to move to the next statements. For this, what we have to do is, there is a method called parser.next is a method. What is the method name? Parser.next is a method. So it will come to the next position. Again, we have to write the logic to move to the next position. Again, write parser.next to move to the next tag. Move to the next tag. Like this, we have to write the logic until what? Until the end of the document we have to move. We have to move to the next tags until the end of the document. We have to move to the next tags until what? Until the end of the document we have to move. Move to the next tags until the end of the document. That's why what we'll do is here, it's a repeated logic. Now, rather than calling every time, we'll make it in a loop. We'll put in a loop. So repeatedly that logic is going to be executed. While I is not equals to parser dot end document, meaning we are specifying I want to repeat this process, I want to repeat until the end of the document. I want to repeat this process until what? The end of the document. So that's why we are specifying while I is not equals to parser dot end document, meaning move to the next tags until the end of the document. Okay. Now here, based on the event type I told you, right, it's going to call the particular constant. So here we have to identify what is this one. If I is double is equals to parser dot, anyway, we don't get a requirement of using that start document and end document, and I is double is equals to parser dot one is start tag. This start tag is equals to start element method. Here we are having a built-in methods, but there we have to compare the constants. What is the event type? Start element, characters, and end element. Here start tag, if I is double is equals to start tag and I is double is equals to parser dot text, I is double is equals to parser dot text. Next, if I is double is equals to parser dot end tag. That's it. Now, whatever the logic default, and before going to closing the while loop, let's write I is equals to parser dot next. If you write this parser dot next, then it will move to the next statements. Otherwise it will be always in the same position. Okay, that's why we have to write this one. I is equals to parser dot next, move to the next tag. Now, whatever the logic default handler is providing in the SaxParser, whatever the logic default handler is providing, that logic we already created. Manually we created that logic to move to the next statements. Whatever the logic default handler is providing, that logic we already created. Manually we created that one. Okay. So now here, let's create a string variable. If you want to read the data from XML file, let's create a string variable. MSC is equals to what? MSC is equals to empty. MSC is equals to what? Empty. When it is reading the data from a tag, it is going to call the text method. Now append this data to MSC. MSC is equals to MSC plus. If you want to get the text from a tag, parser.getText is a method. Directly you'll get the text you will get, right? /n. Okay. So meaning if tag contains data, that entire data we are appending to MSG variable. Once it is closing the tag, we have to identify here, whenever it is closing the tag with employee, there is a method called parser.getName is a method, so that you will get the name of the tag. Whenever it is closing the tag with employee equals ignore case of employee. Whenever it is closing the tag with employee, meaning one employee record is completed. That entire employee data we stored into one string variable we stored, that is MSG. We'll display that MSG value, will display in a toast. toast dot make text get application context. We stored the data in MSG one string variable, comma length underscore long dot. What is the method name? Show. Okay. Whenever it is close the tag with, whenever it is closing the tag, it is going to call the end tag. End tag block is going to call. Here we are checking here. If it is closing the tag with employee tag, we are displaying the data we are displaying in a toast message. Let's run the app. Same logic in SaxParser and XML pull parser. There is no any difference. Okay. One difference is nothing but there we are having a default handler class for moving to the next statements and all, but here manually we created that controls we created manually. Okay. So app is installed. We got one more button called XML pull. Let's click on this XML pull button. Got 1 to 5 record and here also same thing. Just if after reading the data, let's make it MSG is equals to what? Empty. That's it. If we make it MSG is equals to empty, if we make it MSG is equals to what? Empty, then it will not append the data. So this is reading the data from the XML file using SaxParser and XML pull parser. This is reading the data from the XML file using what? SaxParser and XML pull parser. Okay. So now one thing is remaining. What is that one? Now I don't want to read all the records. I'll specify here. I want to read only 1 to 3 record I want to read, or I want to read only 1 to 4 record I want to read. And once if you click on this read sax button, I want to read only that particular record I want to read. I don't want to read the other records. Okay, so now here it's simple. Let's take a Boolean variable here. Either we'll write the logic in SaxParser or XML pull parser. Before going to read the data, like how we created a string variable here, let's take a Boolean variable. Boolean found is equals to what? False. Boolean found is equals to what? False. Okay. Whenever it is reading the data from a tag, it's going to call which method? Start element method. In this start element method, I'm taking a Boolean variable font is equals to false, and one more thing, I'm taking one more variable id is equals to one more Boolean variable. I'm taking one more Boolean variable called id. This id is also what? False. I'm taking one Boolean variable called found is equals to false, and id is also going to be false. So in the start element method, whenever it is reading the data from a start tag, I'm comparing here. QName is one input parameter for this method. QName means nothing but the tag name from which tag you are reading the data. If this tag name is equals ignore case with ID, meaning first I'm comparing whether it is reading the data from the ID tag or not. Whether it is reading the data from the ID tag or not. Okay. If it is reading the data from the ID tag, then I'm making ID is equals to true. First initially ID is equals to what? Initially ID is false. I taken a Boolean variable. ID is what? It's false. I'm making it true. Whenever it is reading the data from the ID tag, make this ID Boolean variable is equals to true. Meaning just we are recognizing it is reading the data from ID tag. Next in the characters method, here write the logic in the characters method here. If ID is true, this is the first condition. Meaning whenever it is reading the data from the, every time ID will not be true. When the ID will become true? whenever you are reading the data from the ID tag, at that time only this ID is equal to true. I want to get the value of this one. If user given value, so where the user is going to give, we create a text box we created. Let's initialize the text box. Edit text et1. So globally I'm initializing after on create method. r.id.edit text. Okay, so now here if user given name like et1 dot get text dot to string, if user given value is equals with the tag value. So tag value we got in a character format. We had to convert this character array, we had to convert into what? Into string format. We had to convert character array comma start comma length. Okay, meaning we are comparing here. If user given value is equals with the user given value is equals with the tag value. I'm comparing here. User given value is equals with what? The tag value. We create a Boolean variable, right? What is a Boolean variable? Found. Make it found is equals to true. Make found is equals to what? True. Okay. Make found is equals to true. In the end element method, first, while it is closing the tag with ID tag, what we have to do? Let's make ID is equals to false. If qname, because if you don't make it false, even for the next record also, you'll get true. So id dot qname dot equals ignore case of ID tag. Whenever it is closing the tag with ID, let's make it found is ID is equals to what? False. ID is equals to what? False. Okay, this is one thing. And another thing is, if it is closing the tag with employee, every time don't display this record. When we will display record, we taken a Boolean variable, right? Found. We taken a Boolean variable called found. If found is true, then only display the data. Otherwise, don't display the data. That's it. And make this found is equals to false. Because if you don't make it false, even for the next record also it will be true only by default. Simple was, first in the start, whenever it is reading the data from a tag, it is going to call this start element method is going to call. In this start element method, first I am checking from which tag it is reading the data. If it is reading the data from the ID tag, make this ID variable is equals to true. Next, in the characters method, if it is reading the data from ID tag and if user given value is equals with the XML value, then make it found is equals to true. When it is closing the tag with employee, if record is found, then only we will display the data in a toast message. After displaying the data, we are making found is equals to false. That's it. Okay. Where is accepted? Okay. So now let's run the application, and even we'll write the logic in the XML pull parser also. Same logic. Here also same thing. Let's take two Boolean variables. Let's take two Boolean variables. One is ID is equals to. Here not required also. Two Boolean variables are not required. Okay. Anyway. So Boolean ID is equals to false. Boolean found is equals to what? False. Okay, ID is equals to false and found is equals to false. Whenever it is starting the tag, if you want to get the tag name, see there is no any input parameters here, but if you want to get the tag name, there is a method called parser.getName is a method. You'll get the tag name you'll get. If this value is equals with ID tag, meaning it is reading the data from ID tag, it is reading the data. Make it ID is equals to what? True. Next, whenever the tag contains the data, it's going to call characters method. In this characters method, let's see here a text method. Text. If ID is true, if ID is what? True, and the user given value. I mean, if et1 dot get text dot equals ignore case, if the user given value, get text means you will not get the string value, you will not get. So first you have to convert into string format. You have to convert et1 dot get text dot toString dot equals ignore case. If this value is equals with the XML value parser dot get text, if this value is equals with the user given value, and I guess here also we have to write dot toString, I guess. Wait. If et1 dot get text dot toString, I mean the user given value is equals with the XML value. Let's make found is equals to what? True. Make found is equals to what? True. Okay, the same logic whatever we created in the SaxParser, we are writing the same logic we are writing here in the XML parser. While it is closing the record, of employee, if found, then only display the data. If found, make found is equals to true here. Okay, we already did in the logic. Found is equals to true. When it is closing the tag, don't display every time. When we have to display, if the found is record, if the found is true, meaning if record is found, then only display this message. Otherwise, don't display the message. Okay. Then after displaying the data, make found also make it false, because if you don't make it false, even the next record also it's going to become true only. Okay. Now let's run the application. Still it is loading. Okay. Now specify here from which record you want to read the data. Let's specify the number. I specified 1 to 4. I specified, and click on this read sax. 1 to 4 is not available. Yeah. So you got only 1 to 5 record. We have not got the 1 to 6 record. Basically there are 2 records are there, 1 to 5 and 1 to 6, but we got only 1 to 5 record we got. That's what the logic we written. Read the particular record. Okay. So one error we found. Now if we specify 1 to 6, we are reading 2 records we are getting now. Because this MSG is equals to empty is there, right? This MSG is equals to empty, make it outside this if condition. That's it. Because we did in the logic, if found, then only make it empty. If you're not found, so that's why rather than don't write the logic if found, make it outside. From outside the if statement, make it MSG is equals to empty. I hope it's done. See, now you got only 1 record only we got. Earlier we got 2 records. Now you got only 1 record we got. Okay. So which record you want to read? Let's specify that particular record and click on this XML pull parser. You'll get only that particular record only you will get. You will not get all the records you will not get. 125, you will get only 1 to 5 record you will get. Okay, so this is SaxParser and XML pull parser. Reading the data from the XML file using SaxParser and XML pull parser. So let me know if you have any queries regarding the SaxParser and XML pull parser. So do you have any queries? Send me the response if you don't have any queries so that no, so I'll understand. Okay.
Yes, Manish. When we are using the Sax parser and XML pull parser, we are both in both cases we are reading the data, right?
Yes.
And you said that 90% of companies are using the XML pull parser and Sax parser, right? So
No.
what exactly the difference? What
Difference is nothing but XML pull parser is more faster than the Sax parser. Here manually we are writing the logic to move to the next statements, right? And this is especially for Android only. But SaxParser is available in even in Java also. SaxParser is available. Even JavaScript also SaxParser is available. But this XML pull parser mainly they specially designed for the XML pull parser. They specially designed for the Android only. Okay, just it is internally it is faster than the SaxParser. That's the reason. And my statement is
okay,
not the XML pull parser. We never use a DOM parser. We use either SaxParser or XML pull parser to read the data. Why Android is preferred to use XML pull parser is it is faster than the SaxParser. That's the reason. That's it.
okay.
Okay. So any other queries? So let's try to practice at least the XML pull parser because I told you right, we prefer to use the XML pull parser to read the data from the XML, and even our requirement also reading the data only. In very few cases, you will get a requirement of creating or updating the XML files and all. Okay. Let's practice up to this. Try to work on the XML pull parser and SaxParser. In the next class, we'll discuss our, so two things are there,
Can I
right?
have the recording session?
Yeah, I'll upload the record in the same drive folder. Okay. In the next 15 minutes, you'll get that video file. Just you can download. Okay. We completed two things. Meaning one thing we completed. If you want to communicate with the web service, first of all, you have to understand how to read the data from the XML. That is completed now. In the next class, we'll see how to use the KSOAP2 library for communicating with SOAP-based web service. That part we'll discuss in the tomorrow's class. Okay. So thank you guys. See you tomorrow at the same time, 6 o'clock. And that video file I'll upload in the next 15 minutes. Thank you. See you tomorrow.